Welcome to the Thrive Tribe Business Growth Podcast for business owners who want to start, grow and scale their businesses with practical advice, real experiences and honest conversations.
Hello, I'm Lucy.
And hello, I'm Mark.
And together we run the Thrive Tribe, where we support business owners through training, coaching and community.
So whether you're starting out or looking to scale, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us. Lesley Hughes from Renegade, a thought leader in relation to everything to do with leadership. We've had some fantastic conversations in the past, and I know you'll be giving us some amazing conversation during the Thrive Tribe Business Growth Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you tell us what you do and how you do it?
Okay, so I deliver mindset training for leaders and teams. I think it's really important that we bring everyone together. Quite often a leader maybe has a slightly different thought process to their team, and we need to get them on the same page, understanding and buying into one another so that your business can thrive.
And how did you get into it?
Oh, well, it's been something on my mind for many, many years. I think my entire life, if I'm truly honest and I reflect now. But it's probably been in the last 7 years that I've really got into it. I can honestly say after leaving school and college, I didn't read many books. And then I started reading and I started to read a lot of mindset books and I just fell in love with it. And I also then worked with a tool which was Elias Porter's theory. And I became even more engrossed in the topic. And then I met a gentleman who introduced me to some training that was built around all of that. And I got so excited. And it became less of this fluffiness and there was a lot of science behind it. And it all brought it all together. Because as much as I believed it, people needed to see the science, I think some people do, to really understand that actually mindset does exist. We can reprogram our brains and it's more important than you initially think.
You mentioned books there. Have you got, what's your favourite book?
Oh, all right. There's several. I would say Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Fantastic book. That book for me was pivotal. It was very science-based. It's very heavy going. So if you struggle with heavy going books, I would suggest doing it as a group. That's what we did. And it was so much easier. But in there, it was pivotal. It was stop looking back for the answers, just keep moving forward. Right. And it was like a light bulb. Like it's simple, but so effective. And the other one is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Now, everyone will know Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's very popular amongst business. But this one's less known. It was written over 100 years ago, but only published in 2012. Because of the themes within the book, had he published it back then, his family felt there could have been issues. He may well have found himself on death row because of the themes and topics that he covered in it. But it is a fantastic book, and I certainly recommend everyone to read it. There's so many more, but they're just two that stand out to me.
That's quite some time to publish a book, isn't it, for that time?
Well, it took many, they kept asking the family and they were like, no. And I think it was only in 2012 that they felt like actually now it would be an acceptable thing to publish. But yeah, very, very good.
I love the mindset part of business. And I think for those people starting out or been in business for years, mindset is just so important just in terms of that positivity. And what I love about you is that you, as you say, you've got the science behind it so you can prove that it actually works. A lot of people out there will still think, it's all number jumbo, but it's not. And that's the thing, isn't it? There's just so many key points of business, whether you're a solopreneur or you're, leading a team of 250 people, it's just that mindset. And if we can get everyone to have that positive mindset and be aware that they can actually change their mindset, then I suppose the world and life would be a completely different place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and limitless. Like life is and can be. We're just one thought away. We're just one choice away from it. And the science behind it now, it's phenomenal. We can see, if you look into a lot of Joe Dispenza's work, he does a lot over in America where he, will take people onto a course over the weekend and they'll scan their brains and they'll see how they change. It is phenomenal. And you're right. Like, knowing from whether you're setting up or whether you've been in leadership for a while, understanding that you can change. There's no such thing as you can't change. If you're a fixed mindset and you're happy there, okay. But if you're feeling fixed but feel like it's not serving you, it's not getting you the results you want from your team, from your business, then maybe you need to look into how and what it is you need to do to move yourself forward. And it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, like I've got to change everything about me. Just one small thing. Once you've shown that you can change one small thing, I always use an example for me, which was making my bed. Sounds like a really crazy thing, right? But I used to come in, I'd be so busy, it'd always be a mess. And then I'd come up to bed and I'd be like, oh, I've got to get into this mess. It's not comfortable. You didn't sleep well. And I made a decision one day that was it. I'm not doing this anymore, and I was reading a lot of books that were telling me, about your habits and all this sort of thing. And so I changed. And now I won't even leave the house unless that bed's made. It will have to be, something's on fire for me to leave without that bed being made, because there's nothing better than getting home. So it's one small change. When you realise you can do that daily, and then what's the next thing I could change that could move things forward in a positive direction? I sleep so much better now, right? Because I've got a nice, comfy, well-made bed. So what's the next small thing that you could change? Is it, maybe you're not a figures person in business, right? You go, oh no, maths, I don't like it, figures. I hear that all the time. And it's like, oh, I don't get it. But if you just spent a few minutes looking at Xero or whatever software you have, spending a few minutes watching a YouTube video just to figure out like how you can look at your forecast, like what's your profit and loss, and figuring that out, it will change everything for you. Because once you know your numbers in business, whatever your size, is important to know your numbers. You guys know this. But just spending a couple of minutes and you'll soon see that you can learn a new skill. You can start to appreciate the numbers. You might not ever love them, but if you've got an appreciation and can understand them, rather than burying your head in the sand every time a bill turns up, it's life-changing. Knowing what's coming in and going out and when, and managing your cash flow, it makes life in business so much more simple.
I love the just proving to yourself. That's what it's about. It's like proving to yourself you can make a small change. And so once you prove to your brain you can do one thing, then obviously you can change again and again and again.
Yeah. And when you see it in others as well, because it's not just you. When you see it changes, when you change your mindset, the ripple effects out is untangible. Honestly, I've seen it with so many people where I've made a suggestion, I've sort of opened their eyes and let them look at things in a different way. And when they come back to me and they've not necessarily said something to their partner, but things have changed in the way in which they needed them to change or would have liked them to change, crazy, absolutely crazy. And it was just from Wayne Dyer said it, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's so true. So true.
No, I love that. We love the mindset, don't we? You do many things, don't you, that you didn't used to do before. They've now formed a habit, which is obviously really, really important when you do look at that mindset part. And even down to some of the stuff that we do with people that we work with, just in terms of, as you say, making those changes, the small changes that make a big difference. And as you say, other people notice, and other people will just sense something was changed. They'll say to you, what's changed? And it might be something daft, but then if we could, like you said, it's that ripple effect. If you can change one thing and then somebody else changes one thing for the better, it's huge.
Oh yeah.
And, and it's game changing for everyone. And we do a lot of work in the Thrive Tribe about looking at potentially our circle of friends, and just seeing those people that are in a very fixed mindset, very negative, and I'm not saying cut them off, but you're saying that we potentially limit the amount of time we spend with them, because we've probably all got them. Unless, go through your phone, the last 10 people to ring you or text you or WhatsApp, whatever your communication medium is, and just score people. So you score them 1 if they're the same as you, if they've got the same vision. You give them an idea and they question you, but they're your champion. Score them a 2 if they're just, if they're in the middle of the road, so they're good to spend time with, make you laugh. And then 3s are the ones that, we need to spend less time with.
Surrounding yourself with the people that you that you want to be around all the time, and the ones that are going to lift you rather than put you down.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with some of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? And a bit like yourselves, I say, them number 3s, we can love them for where they're at. That's okay, right? They are who they are. They're happy with who they are. That's fine. They're not the best for you, but it's okay to love them for where they're at, but limit them, like you say. Create that bit of distance. Doesn't mean you've got to be rude. It just means, not right now, okay? Like when they ring and you're not in, maybe you're having a bad day, don't answer the phone. Just wait, because they're only going to hamper the day. So they can wait because you love them, but you love yourself enough to say, it's time to have some space and I need to get through this and then I'll come back to you. And it's okay to do that. I think it's important because we don't try and change them, because they've got to decide they're ready to have a change if they want it. And they'll let you know when they're ready to. And like you say, the ones in the middle, they're all right for a bit of fun and go out with. I've got a whole massive group of them that I love, and we see each of them at birthdays, and things like that, and it's wonderful. And then I've got people who have got the mindset of me. They want to grow, like the Thrive Tribe. We want to grow. We've got businesses where we want to go somewhere, and we all appreciate that and support each other in that journey.
In terms of mindset, what else can you get people to do to make that shift between a fixed and a growth mindset?
So something really, really simple that everyone can do is, I get to. Not I have to. I have to go to work. I have to take the kids here. I have to do this. So when I'm hearing that a lot from people who are probably quite fixed, it's I get to. I get to take the kids to school. How many people don't get that opportunity for whatever reason? I get to go to work. How many people are still looking for jobs? I get to do these things. We might not enjoy it when we get there, but we get to go. But we also get to make the choice as to whether we look for something else. So you don't have to go. You get to go. And you get the opportunity to look for something else if it's not right for you. Right? And everyone thinks, I have to do this, I have to. You don't have to do anything. You get to do things. And you get the choice to make a different choice if you wish. Right? And I think that's really important. So if somebody's coming at me with, I have to do this, I have to do that, I go, you get to, right? And it's just a gentle, subtle thing. And I had a discussion with a chap in a London pub randomly after an event. And he was from the finance industry, him and his friend, and we were just talking. And he was like, oh, well, he makes loads of money, and I don't. And I was like, but do you want to? He was like, no, not really. I said, well, that's okay then. You get to stay where you are if that's what you want. The thing is, and he's going, but you're saying I'm lazy. And I said, no. I said, it's not saying you're lazy. I said, you're choosing to stay where you are. That's okay. I'm not here to convince you that you have to do more. You're choosing to stay where you are, and that's okay. I'm not here to convince you to be somebody you're not. If you're happy there, then all the good. He's choosing to do more, to get more. It's a choice.
And it's that language you use, isn't it? It's that very, very easy in life to be negative to somebody else who's been more successful. But that's a very fixed mindset, whereas a growth mindset is, what are they doing? What bit out of their life can you take away and use for the better?
Yes.
And I think internet's a wonderful tool. If you Google anybody famous and ask for their daily routine, you will usually find out what their daily routine is. So, do they get up at 5 a.m? Not advocating there's no right or wrong, but do they get up at 5 a.m? Do they exercise before they do anything? What do they have for breakfast? What time do they start work? What time they're working to? What's their routine? And you'll see if you look at a few famous people in life, they pretty much followed the same kind of structure in terms of what they've done. And again, it's having that mindset to say, right, I'm going to try that. Not try it all, but I'm going to try these 2 things to start with, make the change, you do it again. And there's the internet's a wonderful tool for doing stuff like that. And just to find out what other people are doing, their daily routines, how they live their lives is really strong. And then you can copy that. And again, that all helps for that growth mindset.
Definitely. And I think don't be afraid to ask either.
Yeah.
People who are successful are open to being asked. Most,
Yeah.
so ask the question. Don't be afraid, because you never know what might come of it, right? Ask the question. They're all on LinkedIn more often than not, or on some sort of social platform. Okay, you might get a PR or a marketing person, but some of them do monitor their own, and some of them they do ask to pass them sorts of questions along. So ask as many as possible. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a leader, go and ask the questions. As an employee, go and talk to your leaders about how you can possibly progress to where they're going. This shows you want to grow within the business. Yeah, it shows that you want more, and that's okay. And they will tell you either way if there is more or isn't. And then you know where you stand and you can make a choice. Do I stay here? Do I look elsewhere? Don't be afraid to ask the questions. I think we're all a little bit scared sometimes of asking the questions. I know when I was younger in business, I was. And I used to get frustrated because people would end up being promoted or whatever, because I just sat and did my job as good as I could, thinking they'd recognise me sooner or later. But no, I had to sort of put my hand up and go, hello, So don't be afraid to do that. I think it's important, and it shows that you really want something. And as a new business starting out, like I said, go and reach out to other business owners who have been doing maybe similar to what you have. They will point you in the right direction to, funding, or people like yourselves who can support them. The business community is actually really quite friendly, especially at the SME kind of micro business level. I think everybody wants to see everybody else grow. So reaching out and showing that you want to know more. Don't be afraid to ask.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? With when leaders have employees come to them and say, how can I do better? Be honest and open with them. It's not great just saying to them, well, you're doing great and all the rest of it. People want to be able to develop and want to be able to be encouraged. And as leaders, that's something that we need to do, really. And also, good leaders make sure that they surround themselves with people that know more than they do.
Yes.
Make sure that you're utilizing the resources around you. And likewise in business, when you're talking about it in terms of SMEs, surround yourself with those other businesses that you do aspire to be like, or you do, look up to, because at the end of the day, a lot of business isn't necessarily, what it's who you know, but also it's about having that self-belief. We were just talking before we started the podcast about launching before you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, making, and it's that self-belief that it's going to work, and it's not going to fail, and it's going to work. And it's that mindset element of actually, we can.
Yeah. And even if it didn't work, what did I learn from it? Right? I've lost nothing. I gave it a go. Didn't work. Okay, what can I learn from this and have another go? Thing is, when we learned to walk as children, we didn't fall over the first time. But that's it. I'm not walking. I'm staying here. Our parents went, well, you're terrible, aren't you? You'll never make anything of yourself. No, we encourage ourselves. We're like, no, we're going to have another go. Right? Our parents are like, yeah, holding on to things. And it's the same in business. Don't be afraid to fall, because you'll learn so much from it. Right? And it's not, I never call it a failure. I just go, what did I learn from this? It's a learning experience. Life is a learning experience. It's the only way we can move forward is learning from what's gone before.
And I think a lot of business owners worry about what other people are going to think and what other people are going to say. But I think, I don't know any business owner that hasn't, as you put it, not failed, but, that hasn't had something not work out the way they planned it to work. We all do it,
Yeah. If you go and research some of the biggest business owners out there, you have a look at their history and how many times they failed. I talked about Napoleon Hill earlier. He didn't have the best start, and, you look at his history and then look how famous he became and how well he did. Oprah Winfrey, got sacked from loads of stuff before she became big. So it's all these things. You've just got to keep moving forward regardless of what happens. Just go, okay, pick yourself up, dust yourself down, let's go again. Where are we going? Who can I reach out to this time? Did I have the right support? Did I, all of that kind of thing. And yes, we're worried about what it appears to be. But what we forget is, likes of Oprah Winfrey, likes of Napoleon Hill, they don't shout about that story. We don't see all of that. All we saw is the books, the big shows, right? It's not until you dig into it that we know what really happened. And, that'll be the same for anybody else. Because everyone will see you up on the top of the mountain and go, gosh, how did you get there? Well, you see all of them boulders. I had to overcome them and I fell down a few times, but I got here eventually. I'm still climbing, right? It's just part of the journey. And I think we have to embrace it and let go of the ego, and if we can let go of that, we can just fly.
And I think that follows nice on for I want to take the conversation in terms of leadership, because a lot of people, especially those that are employed, end up falling into a job they maybe aren't passionate about, and then they work their way up because they've been there for several years, and ultimately they end up as a leader. Without necessarily the I'll call it training, because if you've got a growth mindset, you're very much into learning. You want to learn new skills, whereas a lot of people have a fixed mindset. Maybe they're being unjust, but the employed element, the people who've been there a while have just found themselves in leadership roles. But as people who own their own businesses, whether solopreneurs, small SMEs, large SMEs, ultimately they are leaders. Even if they've only got any staff at the moment, they are the leader of their business. And I think that is so important that we instill to those people as well about the growth mindset. Because without it, they're going to stagnate what they can offer, whether it's a product or service. And it's just so important, again, that we look at mindset and we look at leadership, because we're all, us, yourself, we are the leaders of our own destiny. And I think even if you're small and you outsource things to somebody else to do on your behalf, you'll still need those leadership qualities. You need to make sure that the decisions that you're making, even the person you give the business to work with, it's all really, really important. We've got that leadership, quality going through and through.
Yeah, because even if you're outsourcing, you've got to impart the information to them. You've got to ensure the work is done to what you need it to be. Yes, understand that they are an expert in their field, but also make sure it meets your need of the business. And you've got to lead that, okay? And I'm going to talk on language a little bit here as a leader. So you'll outsource something and the person will come back and ask you 100 questions. What are you going to do? Are you going to get frustrated because you've already told them? Or are you going to, but they're really good at what they do, but this is really annoying, right? Well, okay, they've done that a few times. Next time we ask them to do something, let's see if we can preempt the questions. Yeah, because they're talking a slightly different language. They want to do the best job they can for you, but they need more information for them to be able to do the best job possible. It's not them being awkward. It's about what they need to be able to do the best job possible for you. There'll be other people, you send them lots and lots of information. They're like, oh, that's too much. Just give me the headlines, right? Understanding who you are leading. Yeah, and what language they need to be able to get the best out of them for you and your business, whether they're employed or whether they're outsourced. You have to kind of manage yourself and understand the different languages they're speaking in comparison to your own. Because if we might all be talking English, but there's many different dialects, okay? And it's understanding them little nuances to be able to get the best out of that relationship, and to make sure you get the best value for your money and get what you need for your business. So leading them and yourself is so important, and understanding, what you both need from each other. And that's why I always say to any business, if you're going to outsource, maybe meet a couple of people, because you can find who you're going to work best with, understand the best communication skills for you guys. It shouldn't all be about price. It should be about actually who's going to get the job done, who's going to work well with me, who can I lead the best, right, to get done what I need to get done. And I think that's where we need to be thinking about it as leaders of our own businesses, or whether we've got bigger businesses and we've got teams. It is about that communication style.
Yeah, I really like that. And thinking about those businesses that you're going to work with, we use a very simplistic version of DISC. Because again, it matters. So for those of you that don't know DISC, it's a fantastic principle. You can spend thousands of pounds doing it, but it's worth its weight in gold. But ultimately, there's 4 groups of people in terms of communication styles. and being that leader and having that ability to be able to change instructions when you realize what the person you're speaking to, what colored person that they are or what part of the disc profile they are, will mean that your message will just get out there so quick and so fast. And again, for me, it's been an eye opener. Obviously, finding out what part of the disc profile I am, what Lucy is, and everyone we work with, because we often do this, and you can find out very quickly through conversation, through a questionnaire, just by watching somebody. You can very quickly see what colour that they are, and being able to adjust yourself so you're matching that person's colour or profile is really, really important. Being a leader and obviously having staff, colleagues, collaborators.
Yeah, definitely. I say I work with something called Elias-Porter's theory, which isn't all that dissimilar to DISC. It's all on the same sort of lines. There's many different things out there. But yeah, I was having this conversation just earlier, actually, funnily enough, and we were talking about like what motivates us. And a bit like with DISC, it's listening to understand. It's hearing what's being said. So are they talking a lot about family and people because they're probably quite weighted that way? Are they asking lots of questions? They're quite weighted that way. If they're just quite high line, it's that. But then what I work with as well is how that changes when we are hit with conflict. And conflict isn't a challenging conversation, because if you have a challenging conversation, you can have that and walk away and both be fine. But conflict is when we are hit in what's really, truly important to us. So somebody will say something, not necessarily meaning to, and it hits us and we go into conflict. But then what do we look like when we go into conflict? What's the language we're using? What will we look like, feel like? So my conflict sequence, I always use me as an example because mine is teeny tiny. If somebody's got a long conflict sequence, you'll see a big change in their behaviours, their language. If it's teeny tiny like mine, very little. So I have to let the people around me know what it looks like and how I need to be spoken to and what I need to get out of it. Everyone needs to know that, whether it's long or short. All right. What do I need to come back out of it? Notice you went quiet there, Lesley. What happened? Was it intentional? What can we do to bring it back? Right? Or do I need to be left to just think it through and then have a conversation later? Right? So talk about all of that. And conflict can arise from overdone strengths and all sorts. And, a bit like the disc profile, using all of these things, all these tools in the workplace, or just as a solopreneur, when you're out networking, can make a massive difference, because you could potentially notice somebody you're having a great conversation with, all of a sudden change, and you think, oh, what did I do there? And then because you're aware, you don't need to put them through a tool or anything, but because you're aware, and somebody said to me once, isn't it dangerous to guess where someone might be? But isn't it more dangerous to not care enough to even try?
Yeah.
Right? To understand? So just ask the question, notice there was a bit of a change there. Is everything okay? Did I say something? If I did, it was unintentional. I had people on the phone when I used to work with this telling me that there were people crying because they'd done this session and this lady was, I think it was NHS, she was about to leave. She was about to hand a notice in. They did this session and everybody in the room turned around to this lady and went, oh my goodness, that's us. We do that to you, don't we? Because she started talking about, when she goes into conflict and how it feels. And they were all like, we're so sorry. It was like completely unintentional, to the point at the end of the session, we tend to do what we call a portrait of strengths. And they were all in there, and this lady had sat back and they turned around and went, oh my goodness, we're doing it again, aren't we? Come on, what do you think? And brought her in. So these tools are so powerful. That lady didn't end up leaving. She ended up staying because her teammates knew now why she was quiet and all them sorts of things. Once they start to understand that, there's a whole different relationship. It can change everything in business. And the amount of money we spend on recruiting or, changing our, suppliers because there's been some kind of conflict or fallout. If we can work on this as businesses, just think about the amount of money we'd save on trying to find new suppliers and new staff, right? It's important.
And I think that's the thing, is that communication is just such an important part of any business. And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people sometimes have different communication styles. So some people like to get information by listening to it. Some people like to get information by reading it. And quite often, whatever communication style you prefer is the communication style you deliver in. Mm-hmm. So, for example, my communication style, I take all of my information in by listening. I'd much sooner listen to a podcast than read it. So that's how I usually give verbal instructions. But I know some of my teammates are, prefer to actually have it written down. So quite often I'll have to, we'll give it verbally and then I'll also write it down for them as well. Or some of them prefer to have it, by showing them how to do something. And they want to actually me talk them through how to do a certain task or something like that. And it's, if you don't know that and you don't recognise that from your teammates, then it's very easy to say, well, they didn't listen and they haven't done what I've asked them to do. But actually, it's not.
And it's a simple question, isn't it? How do you prefer to take in information? How do you learn best? Because everyone's got different learning styles.
Yeah.
I went to a workshop the other day, and this cybersecurity, I mean, the most boring thing in the world. Everyone hates it, don't they? Like health and safety and, cybersecurity. Nobody likes doing it, but it is really, really important. So he was showing that they'd made this like a series that was almost like a Netflix series about cybersecurity. It was great, right? Like, I was like, genius. And he said, and then what they've done as well is they've created it as like an Audible book as well. So then that don't learn through sort of like watching and everything, they can just listen to it as well. And I was like, this is genius. Like, of course you would, because they're all the different learning styles. Everybody likes a Netflix series, I'm told. I'm not a big fan, I'll be honest. I like my old school TV, but, but people do like it. And, there's questions at the end of it, yeah, but like it's something that's a bit exciting, makes you want to watch the next one. I thought, brilliant. But that's all different learning styles. But if we don't ask, we can't provide it in the best way possible, therefore can't have the best relationship possible.
Exactly.
Getting to know people.
And a lot of our courses that we deliver, we make sure that we hit all of those learning styles. And the mentality now of people scrolling, a scrolling mentality and not having the attention span, we always make sure that all of our videos are really short. There's practical things to do. There's also text to read if they want to read it. And it's all done in short snippets of content so that people can access it more easily. And as a training provider, obviously we recognise that that's how people do learn, and that's how we have to deliver that to them.
And that's fantastic. I've worked with training providers in the past, and it was quite a long time ago, and and they don't have the extent that you guys do, working with like National Grid and Anglian Water and all of that on their training side of things, and all they got was a load of PowerPoints for their guys to deliver in a workshop, and that was it really. They might get a copy of the PowerPoint, but that's it, and I think nowadays what you guys are doing, which is that diversification of showing all the various ways of the learning styles, is so important, and it really helps everybody feel included. So it doesn't matter what level they are, what their learning style is, they're able to access it, which is really, really, really good for them and for you guys, obviously.
What has genuinely helped you grow your business?
It's genuinely helped grow my business. There's been several things, but I'm going to say you guys. Thank you. So, shout out. Well, the thing is Renegade's been around for a little while, as you guys both know, and I'd parked it because I was doing something else that was more comfortable, and I realised then that I loved doing what I do with Renegade. I love getting up and doing public speaking. I love delivering training. I love seeing the change in people. And I think I've forgotten that, like just how much I love it. And then when you helped me get onto your course and I started doing it more regularly again, I started to remember why I loved it so much. And it then was like, well, now or never, Lesley, just do it. Just do it. It had been lingering since I think 2022. And it had gone from being like a B2C to a B2B, can be C, but B2B mainly. And, I think that's been the biggest catalyst for me just recently to get it to the next stage of where I wanted to be and actually properly launch and get out there and share it with the world, which I'm super grateful for. So thank you guys.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. And again, from our point of view, just the amount of people that you help and are going to help is going to be phenomenal. And that whole mindset, the training of leaders and stuff is just, it's inspirational. So yeah, thank you. And finally, what's one simple thing that someone could do this week that's going to improve their business?
Can improve their business this week? Oh, it's a tough one. I think I mentioned it earlier. Look at your numbers. Honestly, like from a mindset perspective, even if you hate your numbers, please look at them. Once you understand your numbers and where your incomings and outgoings, even if it's scary and it looks really terrible, you've got a starting point. It's not to be scared for. We talked about failure earlier, right? It's not failure. It's like you are where you are, right? Now, how do we build out? And also reach out and speak to people like yourselves to find out what you guys potentially could help them with or what might be available. As you know, there's sometimes funding available and all them sorts of things. And reach out and ask for help. It's the strongest thing you'll do.
Lesley Hughes from Renegade, thank you so much. There was such a lot in there. It's been, we could sit here all day. There's so much. There's so much that we can go into on this.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is leadership is guiding people, right? You've got to have a good mindset and be able to guide people. We're not telling them what to do. You're a guide, whether it's in life or in business, you're a guide. And if you've got a strong mindset, you can guide people to do and be anything. Super important.
If anyone's got a question, Lesley, how do they contact you?
They can contact me via the website, which is www.renegade.uk.com. All my contact details are on there. Please feel free to email or message me and I will come back to them.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. We shall see you on the next episode. Everybody else.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to the Thrive Tribe Business Growth Podcast.
If you found this useful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and feel free to share it with another business owner who might need it.
And if you'd like more support, you can find us inside the Thrive Tribe community or get in touch to find out more about our programs at thethrivetribe.com.
We'll see you in the next episode.